Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi. We haven't done it like this in weeks.
We have. That sounded really inappropriate. Did you freeze? You always think you're frozen. Okay. Hi, y'all. We're really excited. The Sams are back together. And I am already grounded.
You are.
Oh, we've been on the thing on live for 30 seconds. I'm already grounded. We've got a really fun group of people today, and I'm really excited to interview them.
Me too.
Yay. So we just got a few announcements. Suzanne Matai is doing improv class, and this time it's all ages. So all of the ages.
All of them. Great.
Yep. No matter how young or how, I think that's true. There might be a young, nope, she didn't say a young limit. But improv classes, they're moving to LA County Parks and Rec, available to anyone. I'm getting ready to put the link in the chat. So you can still register. I think that they started this week, but she said you can still register. So they should be going into chat any moment. And then also Grace Rector's book, The Rector Girls, is still in pre-order. So that, Mario, thank you. One of our audience members complimenting my hair.
And one of our previous guests.
Mario Rocha. I don't know if I'm able to concentrate the rest of the show. All right, so this is the link to The Rector Girls. This is Grace Rector's book. As you all may remember, her mother, Pam Rector, who is such a great sponsor and support of the theater, she passed away earlier this year. And Grace wrote a book. And she wrote about the lessons that she learned from her mom, and they're lessons for all of us to learn. So I'm really excited about this. You can pre-order. There's all these different fun tiers, and you get all these really cool things from it. And I've already read a little bit, and it's good. I'm really excited for it. And then Alice Lunsford wrote a book, and I'm super excited about this too. I didn't know she wrote mystery books, but guess what? She does. And here is that link. And that is For Strawberries You Can't Peel. I know, right?
That is mysterious.
It's mysterious. I'm really excited about it. And Mario, exo to you too. He says exo to both of us.
Thank you, Mario.
Sam, what's coming up next at Kentwood Players?
Well, am I announcing the December show?
Yeah, you can announce the December show.
Okay, well, after the show tonight, if you stick around at 8:15 will be the premiere of the next Zoom show, Together Apart. So we are going to be talking with some people who might be involved in it tonight. So stick around to see if that's true or if I'm completely lying. After that, in January, we are going to be premiering the next virtual theater series. It is called Three Syllables of Shame, directed by Catherine Rahm and starring Lindsay and Jeremy Palmer. And it will be showing from January 24th to February 21st. So we have two great shows to look forward to.
I am really looking forward to that. Three Syllables of Shame. That's interesting. Wonder what that is about.
It's an interesting title.
I'm really looking forward to that. And just so everyone remembers, if you want to see the very, very first special premiere of the show, join us for a member meeting and see what our theater is all about. And if you're already a member, come to the member meeting. You know what it's like. It's great.
It's the third Wednesday of every month.
Wednesday every month. And then afterwards, directly following, you get to the special member premiere. And then the Sunday after KP Live, opening night of our shows. And also, sadly, closing night of the show before. So tonight at midnight, we're closing Recipe, directed by Sam Gianfala.
That's me.
Yay.
So make sure, if you haven't watched it, you only have 4 more hours to watch it. So make sure you...
But don't watch it right now.
You can actually do a double feature and watch Together Apart and then watch Recipe. So we suggest you do that. And I just want to say, Recipe, I'm really, really proud of. And we had a really great cast and a really great writer. So go watch it.
It is an excellent piece of theater. And speaking of other excellent pieces of theater, we've got the cast and playwright of Together Apart. Yay!
Who is that? I've never met them. Who are they?
Oh, well, you're too much.
I'm lying because I actually edited the video together.
He's a big old liar, y'all. So let us bring on, in no particular order, Miss Jenny Boone, Stanley Brown, Cassidy Kep, and Grace McLaughlin.
Yay!
Yay!
Welcome, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Thank you all for joining us.
I'm so glad all of you could make it.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we are really excited to premiere your show tonight, opening night of Together Apart. What is it like to do Zoom theater? Let's start there. How has it been different? How's it been great? How's it been horrible? Stanley, can we start with, or who? Yeah, or Cassie. Let's start with you.
It's okay if I go first.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, Stanley. I didn't see you.
Please.
Well, I kind of liked this a lot, especially because Kentwood specifically requested plays that were written for the Zoom platform. So I thought that was really cool. And you're really able to play around. It's basically a different medium for theater. So I found it challenging and fun, and I liked to put fun technical difficulties within my play, so look out for those. And yeah, I personally really liked it, and I'm able to connect with a bunch of different people in different places, so that's also really cool.
Yay! I'm finding that is definitely something that we're drawn to, is that we can use people from all over the country. Like, for instance, Grace is joining us from New York.
Yes, I am. I'm here in snowy Manhattan. It's 10:30 at night, but I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, I was going to just add to that and say I think maybe one of the challenges of Zoom theater, especially when you're doing a play like this, which is very funny, and normally you would have an audience that is going to be laughing, hopefully, and giving you that energy. And it is a little bit of a challenge when you don't have that same feedback, but I think we overcame it pretty well.
Absolutely. That is one of the things I'm finding the hardest, is when you can't have that immediate audience feedback, because then sometimes it feels like, oh, I didn't do that right. That wasn't funny. Yeah, got it. But really, we're laughing and hooting along with you. Yeah.
Have any of you done Zoom theater before doing this show? I know a few of you have, but I don't know if all of you have before. So,
I have. I've done, the first show I did was Rumors by Neil Simon, which, if you are familiar, that's a very 80s sort of slapsticky farce, which again was very hard to do over Zoom. Obviously, it was not written for this platform. And then the second one I did was a series of Shakespeare scenes, which was a little challenging, but doing the scenes, it was just two people, which made it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I'll throw in sort of the negative aspect of doing a Zoom play, in that, it's very challenging, because it takes away 50% of what we offer to an audience. It's partly language and our voice, and the other part is our bodies and our physical motion, and we lose that second part. I mean, we're in this little box, as you see right here, and making up for that is incredibly challenging, and I really don't know how successful we are in doing that. But I mean, and I think as people use Zoom more, we'll find ways of trying to explore how we can bring the physicality back into theater, which is like such an important part of it. It's really instrumental. But here we're just a face talking to you, and we're using our voices, and we're using the words, and we're trying to bring those emotions out. But I always felt a little frustrated that we weren't, able to give 100%.
I find it so difficult not to have eye contact. You think you're looking at someone and you're not, and that just makes it all the more challenging to build that relationship with the people.
I never knew where our line was.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to be an actor that just gravitates to himself. So when I was talking, was just looking at myself all the time. And I had absolutely no idea whether or not that was registering with people at home. But damn, I'm good looking.
Well, if we've learned anything, we've learned that.
And I did just the opposite, Stanley. I tried to look at everybody but myself.
That's what I do. I'm like, I can't look at myself, or I'm gonna start being like, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't do that. Yeah. Every Zoom show I've been a part of, both as an actor and as a director, has been, oh, do I look at the camera or do I look at people? And honestly, I feel like there's not really an answer to it. I think it's just whatever you are the most comfortable with. So
Yeah, and I think, when you watch it, you really don't see that. You don't see people looking around or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like any Zoom meeting, but yeah, it's a little odd.
Yeah. And I think this is a hybrid of sorts, right? We're doing theater, kind of. It's not always live. We don't have the eye contact. We don't have that exchange of energy with each other and with the audience. But we are doing it in one take, and the principles of acting are still the same. We still have an objective. We're still trying to get something accomplished. We still have an action for people. And we're just finding this weird hybrid to stay alive in quarantine.
Yeah, and one of the things that also I think that will change over time, I don't know how long we'll be doing it, but right now, Zoom plays are very self-conscious about being on Zoom. The Zoom format is used within the storyline, and everybody's struggling with the technology, and everybody's, logging on and logging off and all that kind of stuff. And eventually that's going to get tiresome. Those jokes are going to wear thin, and we're going to get tired of that. We're going to have to find out some ways of doing plays where the Zoom technology is like somehow removed from the equation.
I saw a production at LMU earlier in the fall. It was a production of Lysistrata. And so the way they did it was, I don't even know what program they were using, but they had like little puppets that they would use whenever there were big crowd scenes, and like the puppets would move around, and whenever they had scene changes, they had this camera like go through this little miniature version of like Athens or wherever they were. And it was like a really cool thing because that part was pre-filmed, but then they performed it live. Like all of their like performances were live. So it was really cool. And like the boxes like moved around and switched places and like went off camera. It was like really impressive to watch. So I think like I would love to see more stuff like that. Although obviously that is a lot more involved, but I think it's really, really impressive to watch and does really help with the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we forget that, what Zoom was designed for, which was a meeting, and we're trying to take that rather strict, technology and expand it into an artistic form.
Right.
And I think it will happen, but hopefully by the time they develop all the software to do that, we won't need to do it anymore.
Yes,
Right.
hopefully. Well, Cassidy, I know, like, because of the conditions that we put out for Kentwood, we were asking specifically for the Zoom format. Are you writing things outside of this narrow format? Are you writing things maybe similar to what Sam's talking about, where it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing plays like since my sophomore year in college. So I kind of write a wide variety of different kinds of plays where we can play around with things. And yeah, I mean, I think a play is supposed to be something you play with, So I try to have as much fun as I can to make it fun to play with, yeah.
One of my favorite theater teachers in conservatory, that was one of the very first things she says. It's called a play for a reason. So I think that is absolutely exactly what we're doing. Oh, hi, Katniss. You ready to be on TV? I just wanted to say from our gallery, Miss Shari Barrett says, I believe theater take two. I believe virtual theater is here to stay as a new art form. It will be here when theaters open again. What do you all think about that?
I think it's possible. I would say one of the good things about Zoom is it makes theater a lot more accessible. There's so many people who just don't have access to live theater in the same way as people who live in LA or New York. And I think it's wonderful that we're able to bring a theatrical experience that's both affordable and can be watched right from their home.
Yeah.
I think if the technology expands, then yes, we could see virtual theater beyond the pandemic. But as long as Zoom remains Zoom as is, I don't think that people will voluntarily go to see a Zoom play rather than see an actual.
I actually saw an interesting thing, and I don't remember this producer's name, but there is a producer who specializes in Zoom plays, and she's able to take people out of their little boxes and put them in backgrounds with each other. Like she showed that she could put two people in one car while they were on Zoom live. So I think things like that, if it's evolving in that direction, I think that it would be great if theater companies were still able to make some Zoom plays, again, as Grace said, to make it more accessible and hopefully more affordable. And that would be really cool and really awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Sherry's right, because we've, just for exactly the reasons that you described, it opens up the market a little bit. I mean, also you've got family and friends all over the world really that would love to see your shows and support you. And now they're able to. And I feel, we had Lindsay and Jeremy here in the next show. We had them on, and they worked at a theater in Denver that works with people that are disabled. And there's a lot of theater that we can open up and use different types of virtual things to even expand who can participate as an audience member and as a cast as well. And I think, I don't know, Cassie, was this in Los Angeles, this producer?
She is from the Bay Area.
Oh, from the Bay Area. Okay. Because a friend of mine, Tara Donovan, is doing some really cool stuff down at Little Fish. I wasn't sure if that was the same, but it's using that technology, that green screen technology to put people in the same place. And it's really cool, the different things we can do now with all of this, modern stuff.
Yeah, I honestly at this point I'm not even fazed by Katniss being in the show. It used to make me die laughing. Now I'm just used to it.
I know.
But I kind of feel on the same lines as Stanley. I feel like with the car thing, you can figure out a way to do that, but you can also just put it on a stage, So I think it's kind of just, I think people are gonna. The future theater students are going to be studying this as a time when people couldn't do theater in the traditional way, so they found a different way to do it as a way to just say, like, it's not going to go away anywhere. And I think people are going to look at this as just like a really weird, strange time in the history of a lot of things, but in specifically theater. So I personally feel I'm in a bit of Stanley's boat, where I just don't think this is something that's gonna people are gonna voluntarily do, because I don't know how much interest there is to begin with. I think if people had the choice, they would do it live in front of an audience. So that's me.
I know. I will be done with Zoom when we are through this. I don't need to be on Zoom again.
I feel the same way, Jenny.
So sell your stock about winter next year, I think.
I think it's definitely not going to replace theater for sure. And I think as all things evolve, we've been having a conversation before this pandemic about how we can make theater more accessible to everyone and how we can bring in more people into theater. We already know as artists that theater has already been struggling since the invention of the Netflix. So I think people have already started to have to be creative. to already keep the interest. So I'm curious as to what is so important in each of your journeys with theater, your relationship with theater, why you think it's important for, you know, our society that we even keep it live, or should it go the way of opera where it's, you know, just elite and you'll just go if you're really cultured?
Go ahead, Stanley.
Well, you know, I think that everybody has wonderful experiences that cannot be duplicated in any other medium when they go to see something in the theater that really is charged, and feeling that audience, you know, going through that, whether it's a drama or a comedy. There's nothing that replicates that. Having live people, you know, move an audience, just it just doesn't happen in movies or any other medium. So, you know, in terms of what theater's been with us since the very beginning of, you know, man, and will, I think, continue to be vital. I don't see that going away. People do like to gravitate together and sit together and be moved by other people.
Yeah.
You know, the shame of it is when the economics come in and when people cannot afford to see really terrific theater. You know, I was lucky that I think my interest in theater came because my parents were interested in seeing all the traveling shows, and so as a kid they took me, and I was impressed. You know, but if you are in such a strait that your parents don't take you to theater and you're not being exposed to it in school, generally you're not going to go to a lot of theater. You know, and that's where I think the threat is to the theater, is that people at a young age are not being exposed enough.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean, one of the big reasons I started going to see theater and doing it was because my mom took me to see Wicked when I was 16. So, you know, I am evidence of what you just said. I never thought about that way.
Yeah.
And I was essentially born in a trunk. I mean, I grew up with two parents as actors, and have been exposed to theater since I was really young. I mean, kindergarten age. And for me, seeing the importance of it through my parents' eyes. And I always remember my mother telling me that, because she was a secretary and never really liked it, but it was a job. But when she performed, she could be anybody else. She wasn't a secretary. And that was her escape. And it just made her life so much more magical. And in turn, it spilled over into all our lives. And I think my dad was the same way.
Yeah.
So
With me, it was the first road company of Fiddler on the Roof, which toured and played at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. And my parents couldn't get tickets for everybody in our family to go, but bought up single seats on individual nights in order to see this, where everybody could share it. And just the enthusiasm and energy that show has, and came home and everybody talked about it, and on different nights, you know, after everybody went and they came back. I mean, you can't duplicate that with anything else.
Right.
I remember after every opening night at Kentwood, sitting in the car between my parents and having them dissect the play and review it. And that really sort of honed my eyes, my ears for theater. It was sometimes disappointing when I loved a show and they could just sort of tear it to shreds. But it was education.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to talk to my mom about plays sometimes. She goes, I don't want to hear it.
Oh, really?
Expected. I liked it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I had a really similar experience of growing up around the theater. My parents took me and my brother to theater since we were very, very little. I grew up in Berkeley in the Bay Area, so we were season ticket holders for the Berkeley Repertory Theater, and that was my main introduction to that world. But that's honestly a cause that's really important to me right now, and I was lucky enough to work in undergrad. I did a tour with the Gluck Fellows, and then in my graduate studies at Stella Adler here in New York. I was able to do touring companies where we would go visit schools and community centers and prisons, and bring theater to those people who normally wouldn't have any access or
Yes.
ability to go see live theater. And I mean, that was one of the best experiences of my life, to see these young people genuinely see a click in their mind, like, oh, this is a job, this is a real thing that people do, real adults do for a living, and maybe I can do that too. And I had that feeling as a little kid, and to watch that click in other people's minds is so rewarding.
Absolutely.
It's a real concern because, when you see the rise of the theater's competition, Netflix, video games, these kinds of things, I mean, this is where, you sort of think, well, this is what young people know now, then they're not going to the theater. And that is a threat, I think, to theater. There'll always be theater, but whether it'll be, as big as it was before, especially if people aren't exposed to it at a young age, it's an open question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Disney did us a great service by airing Hamilton. I mean, I've talked to people who have seen it, and it's opened their eyes to theater, and they never would have had that exposure.
Right.
Well, and then we could talk a whole show on Hamilton and how that's what a great use of theater that is in teaching education on so many levels, not just historically. Cassidy, you mentioned about you're not allowed to critique a show to your mom. Are your parents really into theater as well? Did you get that growing up as well?
My mom and her side of the family are very active theater goers. None of them are actual performers. My aunt sings, but not theater performers. And my dad goes to my shows. It essentially was very interesting. They were always super supportive of me and of my choices, and I think it definitely helped me get into the arts. And I just really hope that we can create a way where we can inspire kids. I've worked with people with Fringe Benefits Theater, which is in LA, to do theater with homeless women and children as well, just to, making theater with a community also really inspires them to go attend theater as well, and really building a relationship with the community, hoping that you can create something with them is really, really cool. And I just hope to see more of that, and hope to see more affordable theater for everybody, because everybody should be able to come see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like it, for me, education is one of the most important things that we have, and especially for young children, just having that exposure to the arts, I think, is one of the most important tools we have for just not only just keeping theater alive, but just showing showing children as they grow up different viewpoints and different identities and different ways of looking at the world. So I agree with everything that you all are saying. I have a bit of a two-parted question. I want to pivot a little bit into your show that you all did together. And so I am curious, how was for all of you, how was the audition and rehearsal process different than doing it live?
It was shorter. It was definitely shorter. I don't know. Rehearsals were so easy. We just had them set 2 days a week. We knew what to expect. It was a small cast, so it was also very predictable in that respect.
Did y'all just run the script all the way through, or did y'all break it down into certain parts, or how was that kind of done?
We pretty much ran the script all the way through every single time. But we stopped and had a discussion about the characters and the motivation of the characters, what's happening in their lives, how they're reacting, and how. So in that way, it was the same as doing regular theater in terms of actors and motivations and things like that. I mean, obviously the audition process is a little bit different because you're just staying at home and you're, reading the script and then it's up to them. When you go to an audition, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking. You get a little bit more nervous, and you have a lot more to show. I mean, obviously, they're looking at you top to bottom and seeing if you're physically right with the other person. Obviously, that doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just like two heads, Does that head match that head? Yes. Penny's our head.
You guys all had to look related, though.
Right. I mean, that's still part of it, but you have, how you go to audition sometimes and you feel like you nailed it, and then they just said you just didn't look right next to, somebody else who was the lead. That's something that's not really in play here. Although I guess it is in a sense. I mean, Jenny and I had to look like we were married.
Well, great job.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's great. What about you, Grace? Was it super different? I mean, especially you're 3 hours ahead, rehearsing with people that you didn't know. I mean, because Stanley and Jenny know each other, and you're in a completely different environment.
Yeah, it was a little strange at first, but it actually ended up really adding to the nature of this play. The play the context of the play is that they are in California and I'm here in New York, and there's actually a line in the play about I'm in a basement apartment and I am in a basement apartment. So for those purposes, it was actually really easy, and I seamlessly was able to get into character because that really just lined up quite well.
That was really nice of you to move to New York for this. I think that's really going above and beyond.
It really was so committed that you moved all the way to New York in a downstairs apartment.
It's above and beyond.
Apartment just for this role. It was really shows your commitment to this.
And Jenny and I were briefly married in Las Vegas.
Nice.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was still open right now.
I'm method.
Yeah.
We annulled our other marriages and went ahead and got married for a few weeks.
You really got to go all the way. Well, you got to be method and to really get the feel of these characters.
Fantastic.
To be clear, George and I did not make anybody do that. Everyone was of their own free will.
Right.
You don't know George's. That was our director.
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
George Condrick was the director of Together Apart, in case anybody didn't know that.
Yes.
So, Cassidy, I have a question specifically for you as the playwright. Were you pretty involved in the rehearsal process, and were you very hands-on, or were you like, they can do whatever they want?
So as a playwright, I try to come in very open. I think that if you're very possessive of your play, it's not as much fun. I hadn't had many workshops of it, so obviously I took notes actually when Jenny, Grace, or Stanley changed a line by themselves. I was like, oh, that sounded better. I'm just gonna type that out really quick. I went to most rehearsals, was mostly there for moral support or if they had any character questions or script-based questions, but really as a playwright, I see myself as to support the production in whatever way they need me to.
That's wonderful. One of our viewers said, Del Rey Guy says, I think that the virtual plays have given a lot of new writers the opportunity to have their voice heard, which is pretty wonderful, but cannot wait to sit in a theater again instead of in my couch. And that's kind of going back to what we're talking about in the Zoom theater. But I wanted to say, I think he brings up a really great point. We're getting to see a bunch of new people. Cassidy, have you been writing for a long time? Were you did you go to school for writing? What is your passion and approach?
So I'm a writer and a director and a dramaturg. I actually went into theater school at LMU with Sam, and I went in with the intention of being an actor. But I had always liked telling stories and writing stories, but I was dyslexic, and I still am.
Interesting.
And I was very much so told from a young age by teachers, mostly, that I couldn't write. And so then I finally was able to write with fringe benefits on a devised piece. And I was like, oh, I actually can write, and this is actually what I love to do. And so from there, from my freshman year in college, I started writing more and more, and was very involved with the LMU New Works Festival. And since then, I've had a reading in San Francisco and this play as well. And so it's been a really cool journey for me to finally be able to express myself the way I've always wanted to.
That is wonderful.
That's amazing. That was great. I don't know what to say.
That's wonderful. And dramaturgs are priceless human beings. So thank you for
Absolutely.
doing
When you
that.
said that, I was like, that's amazing. That's perfect.
And also I immediately jotted that down for future reference.
I can help you whenever you need.
I love it. Thank you.
Katniss is being a drama queen.
And not even the brush is working to get her off my lap. I wanted to say also, Shari Barrett was wondering, Grace, how did you find out about the auditions?
Well, Cassie and I go way back. I was actually her TA in high school when I was like 17 and she was 15. And that's how we met, and we've obviously been good friends ever since. So maybe, when was it, like 6 months ago, you said like, hey, I'm writing a play and there's a part in it for you, and I was like, that's nice. And then like a few months later you were like, so I submitted the play, it's in a play festival, here's the audition information, and here we are.
I love it. I love it. And Cassie, how did you hear about the Kentwood New Theater series?
I actually heard about it from Sam.
What?
Full circle. Sam posted about it in our LMU theater page, and I was like, oh, I should totally submit for this. I have a perfect play.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you, Sam, for reaching out and posting this.
I just posted it because I was like, oh, well, maybe one person will be like, oh, I have something. And I was right. So I am really so happy that you took that opportunity, because Harold, the Plays Committee chairperson, I never know, Harold,
Right.
He had reached out to me when I was doing my show, Recipe, and was like, oh, by the way, a friend of yours from LMU is writing the next one. And I was like, that's amazing. So I'm
That's
really
awesome.
glad that I could present this opportunity to you.
That is awesome.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you. And before I ask this next question, I just want to notice how mad she is at me. She's now turned her back.
He's seething.
Candace, say hi to the audience.
They did.
Yeah, that's right. You're welcome. So Melody Rivers would like to know, this question is for Cassidy. Were you pleasantly surprised by any of the actors' character choices?
Yes, I'm always pleasantly surprised because I learn new things about my characters when actors come in. In fact, when I workshop, I often just ask the actors questions, and I'm like, oh, interesting, cool. And it very much dictates the world that it's in. I really think that each and every one of you brought something unique and new to the characters that I didn't see before. And the way that these three play off of each other is absolutely hilarious. And they made me laugh at many points that I didn't realize were a joke until I saw it. And I was like, oh, that's actually really funny. So yeah.
I love it.
Thing I would like to add is that one of the many things that makes this script so good is that you're not afraid to take a serious subject and inject humor into it. I mean, the humor was really important, I think, in this play, and whatever we could add to it, I'm happy we were. I don't think anyone will think, at the end that it's, not a touching and moving play on a very serious level, but the humor, I think, highlights that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the relationships between the three characters, it really makes them more fuller.
Yeah, I think a really less skilled playwright would have just made this about a very sad time in a family's decision, and that's not what this play is. It gets to the same destination, but takes a lighter way of doing it. And I think it's just that much more impactful.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I feel like you made like such an interesting dynamic between this family that I would like to see like not what led up to this moment, but just like the moments that kind of created this dynamic between them and how they individually came to the decisions they made and just the way that they are. So I think you really made just an interesting dynamic between this family.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted you. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say thank you. Couldn't have done it without the three actors. So
Yay.
they definitely brought it to life for me.
I also found what was interesting is that we've got this story of this family, of these three people in this family, and we're seeing a story being told over their Zoom conversation. And I felt I'm not going through anything similar to the situation in this, but I felt completely relatable to all of them because we're all stuck in this weird new world in which we're communicating through a screen, real life, but not with that energy, not being able to touch and hold somebody and just to feel them in our presence. And we're all adjusting and finding new things out about ourselves and what's really important. And I feel like you capture a lot of the journey that we're going through in this Zoom world.
This is one of the things about this piece of work, that it's about physical separation, and it uses the technology, which is actually a result of physical separation. And that even makes it a little bit more poignant. I mean, this would be about physical separation if they were all in the same living room having the same discussion. But the fact that it's occurring over Zoom, I think, adds an element to it. And it was one of the very few plays that were submitted for the festival which understood that about Zoom. That it's separating people and making them physically distant at a time which should be physically present. And that was just so interesting.
Right. Absolutely. Jenny, you were going to say something too?
I found it so relatable. It wasn't until we finished filming that I finally asked Grace how old she is. And I have a daughter her age and have been separated from her in a different state. So it was just, I could just relate to the whole thing. And there it was, putting it right out there on Zoom. So it was so beautifully written. That it was an easy connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I too similarly had to make the same decision that my character ends up making in this show. And I'm here in New York. My real parents are in Berkeley, California, and unfortunately, I'm going to be spending Christmas here in New York and just Zooming them. And it is hard, but it's the reality. And I think that's one of the great things about this show is it finds levity in a tough situation and the universal truth of what we're all going through right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, I would love to hear, we always love to ask our guests if you have a favorite theatrical experience that you have had, a favorite role, a favorite show you've seen, even an experience in production that you've done.
Or one you've watched that was very
Yeah.
powerful or moving or memorable to you.
And I know I'm asking you to talk, like to decide which of your children is your favorite. And it's okay. We won't tell anyone. I'm just kidding.
I'll start off with saying one of my favorites
Yeah.
was probably a production of Steel Magnolias, where I was fortunate enough to play Shelby. My mother was in it, and my father directed it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was the whole family, really of just 12 weeks of working so closely together. it's definitely one of my favorites.
I love that. Jenny, did you say you played Shelby? And
did.
did your mom play Malin, or who did she play?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I am blanking on her character name. It might have been Malin. I think it was.
Did she play your mom, or was she one of the other? She's one of the other one. The only reason why I'm asking is because I also played Shelby, and my mom was also in the show.
Oh, how funny.
But she played Miss Clary. She played, the Weezer and Clary duo. She played Miss Clary.
That was it. I'll have to check the program, but I'm pretty sure
funny.
that was it. It wasn't Weezer.
That's so funny. So maybe
that
she was
was
Miss
Dawson.
Clary. I love it. I love it. That's really great. And that's a very special show, especially to share with a parent. I don't know that I could have done it with my mom playing my mom.
Yeah.
I don't think that might have been too much, but yeah, it's very, that's sweet. Yay. What about the rest of you? Favorite experience?
I can talk about one of them, obviously.
Yes.
I think there are too many. But one of the favorite shows I've seen was at Soho Repertory Theater. I saw Jackie Sibley's Drury's Fairview. And that play just breaks every rule. And it shocks you so much. And I'm not going to spoil it for everybody if you haven't seen it or read it, but you should, because it's an amazing, amazing piece of theater that really calls to attention a lot of racial issues that we have in our country, in our theaters, in our entertainment. And it's crazy, beautiful, and amazing. And yeah, I've never had my jaw hit the floor as hard in my entire life. So definitely a great play.
And say that again. That was Fairview, written by
Jackie Sibley Drury.
Okay.
Sibbles, sorry. I said her middle name wrong. Sibbles Drury.
Great.
I'll have to look into that. It sounds really
I know. It's so funny too, because Melody Rivers also wrote Fairview ? So everyone's like jotting down. Oh, we have to look this up immediately.
Yeah, Fairview. Read it, see it, love it. It's amazing.
Thank you for sharing that.
great recommendation.
We will. Grace, Stanley, favorite experience?
Grace?
Oh God, again, there's so many, it's so hard to choose, but the first thing that comes to mind is sort of a recent experience. And earlier this year, I think January, was when I was doing the tour I spoke about earlier, and we did one show where we went into Rikers prison facility and were able to perform for the incarcerated folks there. And, there was one show where a young man who's probably the same age as I am was sitting in full attendance. We were doing an hour-long production of Macbeth, and he was fully enraptured the whole time, and we got to speak to him afterwards, and he talked to us about his desire to become an actor after he left. And I think about that a lot, and it really has impacted me, and I hope that he will.
That's amazing.
I think that's a really special experience that you gave him and that he also gave you. And we always talk about this, but I mean, there's a just conversation that goes on between the audience and the people on stage and backstage and in the booth where there's just these experiences that go between everybody, and the audience is absolutely involved in the storytelling just as much as everybody else. So that's a really great experience, and I'm glad you shared that with us.
And that's the power of theater, the impact that it can have on a person, and then also like that symbiotic relationship, exactly like you're talking about, Sam. I mean, this is why we do it. As much as I perform for my cats in my own living room, like we do it for the relationship we have with everyone else, the collaboration and the audience. That's great. Grace, I want to talk with you later. I used to live in New York. I want to talk to you later about this program that you're in. We're going to talk.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to talk. Stanley, all right, you're up. No more putting it off.
I cannot talk
It was
Grace,
performing
but
and Wait Until Dark with me. I already know the answer.
It was waiting until. Oh, wait a minute. It was recent being able to write and direct and produce and getting Huckleberry Towers, a full-length play I wrote up. And Samantha, you were kind enough to come to that.
Yep.
And Shari Barrett was very kind to come to that and review it favorably as well. Thank you, Shari. That was a work that was really inspired by my parents moving into a retirement home, but the actual work of getting it done was sparked by the death of my best friend who died from cancer 2 years ago. And it made me say, you know, time's a waste, and why is this play sitting in my drawer? So I got it done, and we got it up, and I was very happy with it. And so that was something that I think, you know, would be a highlight of my personal career anyway, and one of my theatrical.
Absolutely. Oh, that was Stealing, that was a great show.
Thank you.
It really, it also, like, it didn't just tug on the heartstrings, it pulled them out and tied them into a knot and full on ugly cry.
It's odd because it was the death of my friend, because I didn't know where this play was going. I just didn't know what it was about. And then when my friend passed, I realized what it was about. It was about loss. It was about people who have things and eventually have to give them up.
Yeah.
And then when I had my direction, I could finish it. It's funny, the things that, you know, will motivate you to do something. And that was certainly not a pleasant thing to have to endure, but, you know, it turned out to be something that turned out pretty well. So
I think that's great, and it's great inspiration, and going right back to what we talked about, the power of theater, because it's a beautiful show that reminds us to really live in the moment and to like really appreciate our experiences, but not hold on so tight that when they change, we can't move forward. I'm like trying to say things without saying specifically about the show.
It's really weird when you think back about like decisions you made, because there was a time there where I said, well, I'm not sure it's going to be ready. And there was a guy who was saying, you want to switch places, you know, with me? My show goes up in like April. And I said, no, I'll get there. We'll premiere in January. Had I made that change, that show would have never been produced because it was April of this year. So had I just said, no, you know, I'll get it done. And, you know, we got in, you know, right under the wire there. We did it in January and February. And then that guy, he got cast and he was doing rehearsals. But
that's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few of those. Oh, wow. That's so interesting. And also you're talking about that and I'm going, that was this year. Because it feels so long ago.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's been almost a year.
Yeah, no, it feels like 5. This year, 2020 is 5 years.
But people this past Valentine's Day crowded restaurants.
Yep.
That's
It's
crazy.
the most recent one, you know, so it seems like a really long time. But
It really does. Yeah, because I just wanted the record to show after your show, Stanley, we went out to the restaurant for the party. I think it was closing night. And we were all sitting like on top of each other. It was so crowded. I can't even imagine that now. And I'm not joking about it. Yeah, it's crazy. All right. Real quick, we have to wrap up. So
We have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. We do? No, it starts at 8:15.
We have 8 minutes.
The show starts at 8:15. Are you worried about?
7.
Oh, shoot. Okay. So real quick, that's why Sam Gianfalo is the producer and not Sam Barrios. Okay. So real quick, what is your craziest debacle that has happened in theater? Something you've witnessed, something you've experienced. Maybe you were in a show that was a debacle. I know I've been in one.
I'll lead off again if that's all right.
Please.
In Waltz of the Toreadors, dressed as a French maid, I really looked like a Hostess cupcake. It was my birthday. I'm taking a curtain call and fell right off the edge of the stage.
Oh, no.
We don't have an orchestra pit or anything. I just fell splat, and there's somebody in the front row with a flashlight asking if I'm okay. All I wanted to do was just run away.
Was this at Kentwood?
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
I am
This was many years ago.
I'm glad you were okay.
I was. Thank you, Sam.
I just want you to know I'm terrified of falling off that stage.
Horrified of that happening.
I don't remember that we had blow tape back then on the lip of the stage.
Oh.
Oh, that might be it.
That could have been why we now have it on the lip of the stage.
I have to say there are two shows I was terrified. Pippin, which we did last year, and Wait Until Dark, which I did with Stanley. I was terrified of falling off the front of that stage.
Yep.
But I'm glad to know that if somebody does, they can live.
Yeah.
I also have a falling story, so I'm gonna follow up, Jen.
Yes.
I was Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors. Gracie knows this story. I was dying because the plant had bit me, and Seymour picked me up, promptly fell on the plant leaf, like his foot slipped,
Oh no.
and then stumbled downstairs with me in his arms. I was gripping. I was like, "Don't you dare drop me right now!" And then he kind of threw me as to not fall on me, but then kind of threw me into a desk.
Oh no.
And then he came back, he picked me up, he sat me down, and his next line was, because I had been bitten pretty badly by the plant, was, "Are you all right?" And I looked at him and I went, "Are you all right?" The whole audience loved it. So it all
That's
worked
great.
out. We're dating now, so I forgave him for dropping me. So
Oh my
yeah,
God.
that's my story.
Great story.
That is such a great story. How long before you started dating? Like how long has it been that you made him suffer after
I
dropping
didn't make
you?
him suffer that long.
After dropping you. Oh, well, that's good. I love that. That's a great story to tell. Oh, I love it. Okay, Stanley Grace, crazy debacle.
Right?
God, it's hard to top that, Cassidy. You literally fell in love.
Oh, goodness.
Melody River says he definitely swept you off your feet.
Until I get that
Nice
right.
mouth, nice.
Well, mine's not as good, but I once saw a production of the San Francisco Ballet's version of Romeo and Juliet, and if you've seen it, there's a big fight scene in the town square at the top of the show, and everybody's fighting with their swords, and the dancers are doing their thing. And there was, these two men, and they were fighting, and one cries out, and we were like, wow, that is so convincing. They are really committed to this. And then immediately the curtain comes down, and they're like, I'm sorry, we have to stop for technical difficulties. And apparently one of those sword fights was real. And one of the dancers had to be escorted off, and I guess he was replaced. But yeah, that was at the San Francisco Ballet.
Oh my word. That is a crazy debacle. That's terrifying. Oh my gosh, Mario, our stunt man who is watching this right now, is cringing. I can feel it.
Yeah, someone
hope-
for sure got in trouble.
I hope, yeah, and fired. I hope he is okay though. The person that got
I
injured.
think he was okay, but
Okay.
to be honest, I don't know.
I'm sure. If you didn't see an ambulance and the whole show didn't stop, they were fine. Stanley, what about you? Have you had any crazy debacles in your theater experience?
I was in a play once called Figments, which is a very good community theater play. It's about a writer, and all the characters in his head, including people who were his relatives, are actually alive and on stage and running around and causing all sorts of problems. And his father has passed, and his urns are kept in his ashes are kept in an urn on the mantelpiece in his living room. And during the course of the play, he learns to get motivated and learn to, how to take care of himself and everything. And he falls in love with a girl, and the girl has this oofish boyfriend who comes in at the end of the play. And while everybody's on stage, the boyfriend comes in, tries to get the girl back. The main character gets up his nerve He takes the urn, he crashes it on the boyfriend's head, knocks him out, and wins the girl, and the happy ending. So during rehearsals, we had these urns that were made up, breakaway urns, and they were fairly expensive, so we had an X amount of them.
Right.
And it was decided that we wouldn't use them in rehearsals. So we used a plastic bowl or something like that, and we saved the breakaway urn for opening night. It was the same theater that we did in North Hollywood. So Samantha,
Okay.
you know that's
Yeah.
a fairly small theater. The front row is like 2 feet from the front of the stage. And the action of the urn coming down on the guy's head is downstage. It's right there, right in front of the audience. So here's opening night. We're pretty full. Here comes the first time we're going to use the breakaway urn. And the action comes up, and nobody knew how much ash to put into the urn. It's never been decided, how much ash goes into that urn. So the stage manager or the producer or somebody filled it to the brim with ash. And so the action comes, the guy takes the urn, he smashes it over the boyfriend's head, and this atomic explosion of ash came out and covered the first 4 to 5 rows of people who sat, stage right. And you can imagine what the reaction was from the audience, because you couldn't even see anything because of the cloud. And then it finally settled, and then there were people in the front row going, like this.
Oh
And,
my God.
It just stopped the play, I would say at least 3 minutes. Just the reaction that everybody had. And then I just remember after the show, we do the meet and greet up in the lobby, and there was all these volunteers coming around with wet paper towels. So sorry. But learn by doing, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is priceless. That is priceless. We've got Melody Rivers, who is commenting her laughing hysterically at your story, just like we all are. Thank you for that entertainment. Our show is starting. Your show is starting. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us. Congratulations on your show, your run, your play, casting. Congratulations on your show being produced. We're really excited for you all. And everybody tune in right now for Together Apart. We'll see you later.
Thanks for having you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.